I taught my son 7 lessons about silence. But the last one is the one that can save a man from destroying his own life. Most men learn it too late. The day my son turned 20, I did not buy him a watch. I did not hand him a box. I did not take him out to celebrate. I asked him to sit down. He sat across me at our old wooden table. I looked at him and said, "There are some things a young man should learn before life teaches them the expensive way." What I gave him that day was not a mere gift. It was an inheritance. 7 lessons, all about silence. But if you forget everything else I say, do not forget the 7th one. Not the silence of fear, not the silence of weakness, but the kind of silence that gives a man weight. And if you are a young man listening to me now, listen carefully, because these are not 7 things I read in a book. These are 7 things life taught me slowly, through mistakes, pride, anger, work, regret, and prayer. 1. Silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. When I was younger, I worked under a man named Mr. Emmanuel. He was not loud. He was not flashy. But when he entered a room, people adjusted themselves. One day I watched a room full of men arguing over a problem. Everyone was speaking. Everyone was defending themselves. Everyone wanted to sound important. But Mr. Emmanuel said nothing. He sat there quietly. Then, when the noise had exhausted itself, he spoke one calm sentence and the whole room shifted. That day I learned a powerful lesson. He told me when I asked, "While other men are spending their energy speaking, I am spending mine seeing." I never forgot that. Silence is not empty. It is where judgment is formed. Remember this. A man who cannot be quiet long enough to think will speak before he understands. And that mistake follows him everywhere. 2. Your words reveal your level. Years later, I hired a young man with great potential. Smart, confident, talented. But every small frustration became a performance. Every disagreement had to be heard. Every emotion had to be spoken. One day he corrected a senior manager in a disrespectful tone in front of others. He was right in content, but wrong in spirit. And later, I let him go. He kept saying, "But my work was strong." And I told him, "Your work did not remove you. Your mouth did." That is one of the hardest truths young men must learn. Every time you speak, people are measuring more than your words. They are measuring your control, your maturity, your judgment, your timing. Remember this. A careless mouth can make a gifted man look small. 3. Silence makes people show themselves. Many young men are afraid silence makes them look weak. It does not. It often makes the other person visible. I learned that during a negotiation, a man placed a weak offer in front of me. A price that was not what we agreed on. My instinct was to react immediately. But I stayed quiet. And because I stayed quiet, he started talking. He explained too much, defended things I had not challenged, revealed pressure points I would never have discovered if I had rushed to answer. And I left that meeting thinking, silence did not make me powerless. It made him visible. Listen, when you stop rushing to fill the air, people often reveal their fear, their pride, and their motives for free. 4. Silence in anger is strength. Let me tell you something plainly. I have said things in anger that took me years to outrun. There was a time in my life when I thought quick words were proof of strength. They are not. They are proof of poor control. One night, a friend wrapped a real insult inside a joke in front of others. I felt that heat rise in my chest. The kind that prepares your mouth before your mind. I was so angry. But instead of answering, I excused myself and stepped outside. 2 days later, he came back and apologized properly. Had I exploded that night, the issue would have become noise. My silence left him alone with his own shame. Listen, when anger tells you to speak now, wisdom tells you to wait. Not every battle is won in the moment. 5. Not every question deserves an answer. As you grow, people will test you. Not always because they hate you. Sometimes because they envy your peace. Sometimes because they want your reaction more than your truth. I learned this when a man kept questioning me publicly over a decision I had made. At first he sounded curious. Then I realized he was not seeking understanding. He was fishing for reaction. So I simply said, "That is a fair question." And I moved on. That answer frustrated him more than any argument could have. A mature man learns this. Some questions are sincere, some are bait. Know the difference. 6. The quiet man is remembered. I have sat in many rooms over the years, and the men I remember most were rarely the loudest. There was a man in our church named Brother Adeyemi. He did not chase microphones. He did not force opinions into every discussion. But when confusion entered the room, people looked for him. Why? Because he had weight. One day, during a heated church disagreement, he waited until everyone had finished talking and said, "If everybody here wants peace, why is everybody here speaking like war?" And the room fell still. That is influence, not noise. Weight. Some young men think visibility is power. It is not. If your words are few and well-timed, people remember them. Listen carefully. If your mouth is always running, your value begins to leak. Now, this last one. This is where most men lose themselves. This took me the longest to learn. There was a season when my life was full of noise. Work pressure, bills, responsibilities, opinions, criticism, and the noise inside my own mind. One day my wife asked me a simple question. When last did you sit in silence? No phone, no talking, no planning. Just you, God, and your own thoughts? I had no answer. So I began waking up earlier. Just 30 quiet minutes before the day started demanding things from me. At first it was uncomfortable, but slowly things became clear. Not because all my problems disappeared, but because I could finally hear beneath the noise. I could hear what fear had been exaggerating. I could hear what needed to be done. I could hear what needed to be left alone. And above all, I could hear again what a noisy life tries to drown out. The voice of God, the voice of conscience, and the truth. If a young man never gets quiet, he can spend years mistaking noise for wisdom, pressure for purpose, and panic for truth. So guard your silence. Guard it carefully. Because silence is where you hear God, yourself, and the truth. Remember this: you do not have to be the loudest man in the room to be the strongest one. Sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is become quiet enough to see clearly. If this reached you, there is more to learn, and Panicholos will be here.